Okay, I have been avoiding speaking about this, but so long before my mother was ever diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, well, a lot of this is kind of still like blocked from my memory, I think, because of how painful it was, but I just know that I was carrying like all the weight of the family long before that. Because she really wasn't present. Um, I'm trying to speak about something else, but this is coming to mind. Like, we were in a grocery store, Walmart, and I was 14 or something. Could have been 13. It was before she left the house. But I told her I was going to graduate from high school a year early and go to college, probably in a different state or something, because I wanted an adventure. And kind of how it was set up growing up was like that she wouldn't let us out of the house once we got home. And maybe this is a lot of parents now, but and she would play piano, like I've said in other videos, for 4 to 5 hours and then make us dinner. And that was kind of the only interaction we'd have with her during the day, besides driving to and from school. Um, so I just kind of always feel like I didn't really want to be in this room just like memorizing things and doing the paces from the Christian school. And I'd read all the books in my room, you know. Uh, I don't think I was really allowed to sing along to musicals. She was playing piano because that would have been too loud. I had to wait till she was in a room, so I couldn't do it every day. But and the pictures of the family, at least one of them I remember, kind of shows this where like I'm kind of the primary caretaker for my youngest brother. You know, I'm trying to like comfort him while she's holding him in a picture, and I remember like the feeling I had there, like why is she holding him? She doesn't even take care of him, you know. But she wants like the clout of this is my baby when she wasn't the one taking care of him. I was. Yeah. I remember her changing his diaper, but like quickly she made it my primary responsibility, which you know is kind of fun for a 8-year-old girl or whatever. It's like you have your own baby, but not really what I wanted. I wanted to be a kid. So fast forward to like college. I'm still hanging out with my little brother, taking care of him a lot. The government gives me $6,000 because they haven't given my family the appropriate amount of support. We get food stamps and stuff like that. And I'm 18, so my dad just gives me a check and it's mine. And he uses those checks for my younger brothers to get a TV and fix the car. Um, so I spent most of the $6,000 hanging out with my little brother, buying groceries, candy, movies, things he wanted, like skateboards and skating clothes and stuff like that. Because I still felt like he was my responsibility. And so I meet the guy I later marry, um, and he says something like the relationship I have with my little brother is kind of sick, like I'm not his mother. To which, to some degree, I agree and understand what he's saying. Because I have been feeling like, although I felt like my little brother was my best friend, that I just couldn't be who he needed me to be, and I couldn't be his mom. I was his sister, and I felt like I was like taking on way too much of a parental role in his life. So there were many years where I didn't talk to my little brother at all because I felt like he was just trying to use me for things after this. There was one point at which I went back and lived with my dad for a minute after meeting my future husband, but my little brother had already like made a bunch of friends, so I wasn't really a part of his life anymore. But then he came to the apartment I had with my ex-husband and brought all his friends, and they wanted to come in and hang out, but this would have just been like them kind of taking over the area and like eating our food and drinks and stuff. So I gave him some water bottles and didn't let him in, as my ex-husband suggested. And that didn't feel great to me, but I also felt like I was setting a boundary, and that felt good. Like I needed to be an adult without feeling like I had to take care of my little brother. Yeah. So fast forward a few years after I decided not to talk to my dad. I guess I'm just going to say I felt like my little brother never appreciated the time I did spend with him growing up, or the times I did try to help him, because I had to stop. And he was never put in that position, so he doesn't really know what it's like. And it wasn't personal, it's just the relationship started to feel sick to me, and like I was taking a role that wasn't mine. And I didn't know how to still have a relationship with him and just like be a friend or a sister, because I felt like I was totally responsible for him. So yeah, I mean, I did withdraw completely, which I've also done with other people when I felt like what they needed from me was so much more than what I could give. Or that the position I put myself in the relationship wasn't one I could backtrack from, of like overextending myself to such a degree. At this point, I was also struggling with like dizziness standing and lack of energy. My little brother wanted me to like constantly pay attention to him riding a skateboard, and I'd space off sometimes because of how exhausted I was and how I just needed my life to be better and how depressed I was. I just wasn't really in a position to help anybody else. And that's the most trouble I've gotten into in my life, when I'm not really doing okay, but I use like everything I have to help somebody. I just get sicker by it a lot. So that's kind of a pattern I'm stopping in my life, but I still wanted to be able to be close to my brother, but I couldn't. I didn't really know how. I've already done a significant amount of trying to understand my older sister. I basically was having a pretty tough time when I got to the state I'm in, and she more or less said, don't come to me when you need help. she's like, next time you need help. It wasn't exactly how she phrased it, but it was what she meant. Like, if you need this much help, you shouldn't be coming to me. Something like that. And at one point she said that she felt like I always had to be right or wouldn't like admit when I needed help. I've admitted plenty of times to other people who cared more than she did. It's just very few times have I gotten help. Now I'm kind of like, I don't really need help. I just need to like process through some stuff that was really sad for me. And it was hard when my mom left, like the divide in the family. And I kind of knew this before she left, that if she ever was to leave, like that she was the linchpin that was holding me and my older half siblings together. But otherwise, we don't really have much of a connection. Same on my dad's side, you know. So part of it's just always wanting something to be there that's not, you know. And I think always as the younger sibling of an older sibling, part of it's just like you look up to them or see them a little bit in a parental role, because that's how they play it out to you as well. But I can't help but try to understand other people's perspectives, and I think that's a good thing. But I just want my younger brother to know I love him. It's not personal. I know he doesn't watch this channel, but at some point he might. Years later, when I needed help with something, I want him to watch my son for, I think I asked him to watch my son for a couple months or something when I was trying to get him adopted and I was having difficulty, but felt very weak and sick and really needed a break. And another time during the same year, I called him and told him I was in the hospital, and he said he didn't have time for this shit. You know, and he wouldn't help me with my son, which he later apologized for. But I guess it's just like, don't think because you helped somebody in the past that they'll come around and even remember or care. You know, it's the best thing to do is just like take care of yourself and make sure you're okay. I went through some digging to figure out if my family actually cared about me that year, and the answer was basically no. But I already knew how distant we were. It's just part of me needed to confirm it so I could let it go. And I still feel distant from my little brother. I'm just trying to let go of that responsibility I feel for his life, because I couldn't have saved him from what he went through. He was not my child, he was my brother. And it sucks that I was put in a role where I just had to be responsible all the time, when like I'm such a kid at heart. Like as an adult, I haven't done as well by society's standards as I did in high school. But apparently that happens to a lot of kids who are put in the position of being the parent, that they just don't really know how to be an adult once they're not the parent anymore. And all these roles I'd been put into growing up really defined me, but when that family unit broke down, partially because I decided not to be a part of it, I didn't know where my place was. And I'm still like trying to piece together, like, who am I as a person outside the things that were thrust on me growing up that I had to be responsible for. And whenever I ask myself this question just in my head, I'm like, well, I love children. I really do. So I feel like I can relate to them better than adults, probably because my own childhood was really cut short, but I've always had that inner child inside. I don't like to put any sort of like boundaries on children. I couldn't really do it with my own son because I felt like it would be cruel. boundaries are different than like boundaries are good. It's just not something I learned in my family, so it wasn't really something I knew how to impart. It's still something I was learning to like create in my own life and interact with other people with like boundaries when I had him. So I guess I'm learning to grow up in like a real way and like who am I really? My heart has always known, but how like I function in this society is different. And based on like the heartbreak I experienced. And most people, it's like either they haven't experienced that or they did and just didn't feel as deeply as I did. I experienced like so much growing up that was so hard. And that's mostly all it was. It felt like torture and it felt hard. And I did my best to be as strong as I could growing up, knowing that like these things that were put on me were not like things I could continue, and trying not to identify with them. But still, like stepping outside of that, it's like, what does that really mean? It's just that you never know who you are. I wasn't allowed to explore those things. If I hadn't drawn a perfect picture or been the perfect amount of skinny or something, I wouldn't have been congratulated. If I hadn't stood out from the pack of my family, I wouldn't have got any acknowledgement. And I still got bullied. By my dad especially. My mom was more insidious. But and it was so confusing because sometimes he'd support me and say he was proud of me, and other times he'd put me down for getting an education. Just the lack of support in my family was like what like drove me to be with abusive people when I was younger. And when, well, also recently, but that was more, I feel like it's more on me as I realize it more, you know? It's just, guess I've just always wanted to be with someone who wouldn't take from me. That's all my family's ever wanted to do is take from me. I learned how to so efficiently light up the room that everyone just wants to take it. Didn't really get that I can just light it up over and over. And I won't let them take it anymore. I feel like I've been in that transitionary state my whole life. At least since like 14 when my mom had a psychotic break and left the state. It's just, I've been kind of on a sojourn, which I think is a solo journey. You know, trying to find where I fit and like poking my hand to different places to see if that feels good. I know what that sounds like, but I'm talking more about rocks and water and stuff. But it's just the more I try to cling to an identity, the more it slips away. Have you ever read like Pema Chodron? Pema, last name Chodron, I think. Um, she's a Buddhist monk, but a really special person. She has some really cool books. But she kind of talks about that. Like the real bravery in life is to like sink more into the unknowing and become more comfortable with that. You know, when you see vulnerable emotions, to be brave enough to sit with them. So that's my message today. Bye.